You know, guys, every time when we say that the president of the country is out of touch with reality, some people think that we are over exaggerating. But the truth of the matter is that we are just calling it as it is. The president of the country is out of touch with reality. That is just the honest truth. And Ramaphosa actually has this thing that actually annoys me to the core. Because every time when you listen to him speak about the issues that are facing the people, you will get frustrated with the fact that this guy is the president of the country, but he is not aware of everything that is happening in the country. He is always shocked of the things that people already know. And this thing actually annoys me, and it shows us how out of touch this guy is. It's almost as if President Ramaphosa is not living in South Africa. Because when he does these little press conferences where he does not even take questions, you will hear Ramaphosa saying that, oh my goodness, I didn't know that things were so bad in the Free State. I didn't know that children had to cross the rivers to attend school in the Eastern Cape. I didn't know that the city of Johannesburg was in this poor state. This is what this guy literally said when he visited Johannesburg recently. He was shocked to find Johannesburg as it is, despite the people talking about the fact that Johannesburg is collapsing, despite the people accusing Panyaza Lesufi, the premier of Johannesburg, of being incompetent and trying to act like a struggle hero, trying to act like Chris Hani instead of actually attending the needs of the people of Gauteng. Ramaphosa was shocked. He was shocked that no, there is absolutely no way that my G20 friends can see Johannesburg as it is. No, I cannot believe that Johannesburg was in this state. And despite him admitting that Johannesburg is in such a poor state, he said that no, Johannesburg was safe. The day when I was there in Johannesburg, I didn't witness any criminality. I mean, this guy literally said that he didn't witness any criminality when he visited Johannesburg. He didn't witness any criminality. This is the president of the country. This is a guy who knows that the illegal foreigners are hijacking buildings in the middle of the cities in this country, and there is nothing that the government can do. And he goes to one or two spots and he says that no, it is safe. It is safe. And the people in Johannesburg were furious to say that how can the president say that Johannesburg is safe? He went to one or two spots and he says that no, things are okay. Oh my God, man, it is safe. It is safe in Johannesburg. It's just that there's a lot of potholes. It's just that the infrastructure here, it is not impressive. But when it comes to safety, Johannesburg is safe. This is the president of the country. This is the president of the country. And there are countless examples that I can make to prove that this guy is totally out of touch with the lives of the people of this country. And I don't understand why he's the president of the country when he cannot relate with the things that are happening on the ground. This is the reason why I cannot understand why he's the president of the country. I honestly cannot. So recently he visited the Eastern Cape. And again, Ramaphosa is shocked at the state of the Eastern Cape. I mean, some of us, sometimes we watch television and there's this show that is called The Cutting Edge. I know that many of you guys are actually familiar with this show that is called The Cutting Edge. So they do cover a lot of what is happening in the Eastern Cape, and this is the reason why many people are actually privy to what is happening in the Eastern Cape, because of the shows and the documentaries that are shot in the Eastern Cape. Children studying under the trees, children crossing the rivers, people crossing the rivers with drums. This is things that we know. I live in the Free State. I've never went to the Eastern Cape. I live in the Free State, but I know of these things that are actually happening in the Eastern Cape. But not the president of the country. No, he's shocked. Shocked. And do you know why the Eastern Cape is in such a poor state? Do you know why the Eastern Cape is such a poor state? It is because of the legacy of apartheid. This is what the president is saying. Absolutely nothing about what the ANC has done in the past 30 years. No. You cannot hold the ANC accountable of anything that happened in this country for the past 30 years. No, you cannot do that. But the Eastern Cape is the way that it is today because of the legacy of apartheid. This is what the president of the country say.
coastline, well-located ports, as well as a number of universities. Now, all these endowments should be used to generate economic growth and job creation. Yet the Eastern Cape has significant challenges in realizing its potential. There is here in the Eastern Cape the legacy of apartheid, and you see it wherever you go. The legacy of the Bantustan misrule that we had in our country, balkanization of our country, and the migrant labor system. Now, Deputy Minister Holomisa, a former dictator of one of those Bantustans, on reflecting on the challenges facing the province, wrote to me recently and said, the Eastern Cape, the second largest province in South Africa, and it is quite expansive, by the way, and the Premier was talking about it yesterday when we were interacting with Transnet. It is a huge province, second only to the Northern Cape. But this is the product, as Deputy Minister Holomisa continued to write, of the amalgamation of former homelands of Transkei and Ciskei with some parts of the Cape Province, of the old South Africa, he says. The challenge that has, however, been facing this province, he continues to write, is that its infrastructure had never been properly integrated with that of the old South Africa and brought on par.
And whose fault is that? Whose fault is it that the infrastructure of Eastern Cape is the way that it is? Whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? I mean, isn't it shocking that Ramaphosa can sit there with a straight face and literally blame the legacy of apartheid for everything that is happening in the Eastern Cape and say nothing about the fact that the ANC has been in charge of this country for the past 30 years? So what have they done to actually improve the infrastructure of the Eastern Cape in the past 30 years? What have they done? What have they done? And it is so frustrating because every time when you listen to these people, they will never take accountability. If there is one thing that the ANC hates, is accountability. They hate accountability. They hate accountability. I'm sure that the president actually went to the Eastern Cape with that convoy of his. Whose fault is it that the infrastructure of the Eastern Cape is the way that it is today? Whose fault is it? Whose fault is it that the infrastructure, not only in the Eastern Cape, the infrastructure in majority of the provinces in this country, I mean, even in the province where I live in the Free State, the infrastructure here, it is such a mess. It is such a mess, man. It's such a mess. It's not their fault. Nothing is their fault in this country. And they will never admit to any wrongdoing. And these are the people that are governing this country, but they will never admit to any wrongdoing. They will never say that, guys, you know, we have done 1, 2, 3. This is something that they will never do. They will never do that. They will never. I mean, when you sit down and actually think about the kind of money that is spent by the government, when you sit down and think about the money that has been stolen, when you think about the corrupt cadres and the corrupt organizations that have been exposed in Zondo Commission and the kind of money, and I think the Zondo Commission was just a tip of an iceberg. When you think about the kind of money that these people have actually wasted since 1994, the kind of money that has been stolen since 1994, these people have no right to sit on national television and actually blame anybody but themselves for the state of the country today. The way that things are in this country today, these people actually have nobody to blame. They have nobody to blame but themselves. But they will never do that. They will never do that. They know that blaming apartheid for everything always works. despite some of us saying that, guys, but you need to take some sort of accountability for the things that are happening in this country. No, they know that every time when they mention apartheid, they know that like that is one line that will always work. That's why you will see Panyaza Lesufi, the Premier of Johannesburg, going around with a t-shirt writing "Don't kill Chris Hani again." I don't know if he thinks that he is Chris Hani, but you look at the way Gauteng it is today. You look at the way that Gauteng it is today. The people that used to live in Gauteng like 20 years ago, they will tell you that this is not the way that we knew Gauteng. Gauteng was never like this. But ever since these leeches of comrades took power, things have been a mess. Things have been a mess. Panyaza Lesufi, when it comes to talking about the struggle heroes and singing these struggle songs, number one. He's number one. When it comes to dealing with the things that are happening in his province, no, it's everybody else's fault, but besides himself. I remember saying that, no, the criminals are damaging our infrastructure here. He's blaming everybody but himself. He forgets that he is the Premier of Gauteng. He's supposed to do something about the criminality that is happening in Gauteng. He actually has the power to do something about the criminality that is happening in Gauteng. But no, that is not his fault. It is the fault of the criminals. And him, as the Premier, is absolved of everything that is happening in Gauteng. Just like Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa will never take accountability of anything that is happening in this country. The ANC will never take accountability for the fact that they've been in charge of this country for the past 30 years and they have stolen I don't know how much money. They will never take accountability for that. They will never do that. Just look at the things that are happening in the Eastern Cape, man. Just look at the things that are happening in Free State. Just look at the Northern Cape, Northwest. Like, it is such a mess under these people. It is such a mess. It is a mess, man.
Nor does the province have the budget to catch up on the backlogs and imbalances of the past. Close.
Just Yo, Ramaphosa is such a burden, man, on our lives, man. The sooner this guy steps down, like the better. Like, it's such a burden in our lives. I swear to God, this guy is such a burden in our lives.
Codes. This is so eminently correct, even coming from a former dictator. Now, levels of poverty, inequality and unemployment remain extremely high here in the Eastern Cape. As Minister Hlabisa, in opening this meeting, correctly pointed out, the Eastern Cape is the poorest of all our 9 provinces. And we do count 4 provinces as being so badly affected by the legacy of the past and also suffering from the plight of poverty.
You see, it's always the legacies of the past, not the legacy of the ANC.
There is significant infrastructure backlog here in the Eastern Cape, which affects the provision of water, particularly, and electricity, but it also impacts on other social areas of our people's lives, healthcare, education, as well as transport. This is exacerbated by the growing impact also of climate change, which we also need to talk about. The effects of climate change are felt on a widespread basis in our country, but especially in KZN, the Eastern Cape, and Gauteng also and Northwest continue to suffer that, as does the Western Cape as well on the more eastern side. Now, as a consequence of these challenges, the province's natural and other endowments are not supporting inclusive growth in an equitable manner, despite the progress that we have made, and we have made progress, and the Premier correctly talks about some of the developments, and where we visited yesterday the port of Ngqura. It is a product of what has happened post-apartheid or during the period of freedom in our country.
So thank you, President Ramaphosa, for always telling us what is always obvious. Thank you for telling us things that we already know. It's just that as the president of the country, I actually thought that you would actually be man enough to take accountability for the mess that you have caused for the people of the Eastern Cape. So there's no need sitting there and telling the people of Eastern Cape about the things that they already know. We already know of everything that you are saying right now. This is not a surprise. Everything that you are saying right now, it is something that we know. It is something that we know. This is the president of the country. This is the president of the country. And I remember somebody yesterday saying that Ramaphosa has been the president of this country for the past, like what, I think from 2018, almost 8 years. What has he achieved as the president of the country? What has he achieved as the president of the country? And this thing of him blaming apartheid on everything that is happening in this country, man, I don't know who actually advises the president. You remember before the elections, I don't know if it was before the elections, when he said that there is no capacity inside the government because there are no engineers inside the government. There is no chartered accountants, and there is no, I think he also spoke about the quantity surveyors. And he said that there is no capacity inside the government, and it is because the apartheid government didn't train enough people for these positions. And this is the reason why there is no capacity inside the government. This guy forgets that the ANC has been in charge of the country for the past 30 years. And the ANC could have easily trained the people. They could have easily ensured that there is capacity inside the government instead of this thing of theirs of always hiring these private businesses to do the job that they are supposed to do themselves as the government. But he literally sat there and blamed the apartheid government for not training enough quantity surveyors, enough chartered accountants, enough engineers. And it was their fault that the ANC couldn't train these people themselves for the past 30 years. And can you just imagine the president of the country saying that there is no capacity inside the government when you have so many people that are unemployed, many people that can easily fill up these positions? But he said that no, it is not our fault. It is the fault of apartheid. It is the fault of apartheid. That Minister of Human Settlements, I think when Ramaphosa and the ANC were still in charge, before the elections, the Minister of Human Settlements, I think it was Lindiwe Zulu, that woman with a blonde short hair that is never growing. You remember that incident in Johannesburg where a building actually caught fire and many people died? And it was later discovered that that building was hijacked by the illegal foreigners. And instead of just admitting that we as the government have actually allowed a situation where illegal foreigners can hijack the buildings in the middle of the cities, what did she do? She blamed apartheid. It is not the fault of the ANC, but it was the fault of apartheid. It was the fault of apartheid. The Minister of Transport then, Chikunga, that lady, she said that the reason why the trains are not moving, it is because the apartheid government didn't invest enough. And now the trains are not moving. This is what these people always say. And every time when you listen to these people say these ridiculous things, you cannot help yourself but get frustrated. You cannot help yourself but get frustrated. And how can these people think like this? How can people who have such a low thinking, how can these people be in government? How can these people actually occupy high positions with this kind of mindset? I don't get it, man. I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. Just, I don't. So here is the president of the country talking about obvious things. And again, blaming apartheid for everything. It is never the fault of the cadres. It is never the fault of the corrupt cadres. No, it is never their fault. But it is the fault of the apartheid government. Guys, I don't know. Please tell me what you think on the comment section. Don't forget to hit that like button, and the most important part, subscribe. My name is Thomas Mabaso. I will see you next time. Bye bye.